Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes needs to be next since both are in the top 3 in the featherweight division, and Diego Lopes just called out Alexander Volkanovski to a fight in December. Now, who would win this fight? Well, folks, about who would win this fight, let's take a look at their latest performances, in which Alexander Volkanovski fought Islam Makhachev for a second time, in which Islam Makhachev knocked out Alexander Volkanovski in round 1.
Proposition.
After this, Alexander Volkanovski went on to fight Ilia Topuria, in which both started off great until Ilia Topuria knocked out Alexander Volkanovski in round 2. Now let's take a look at Diego Lopes' latest performances, in which he fought Dan Ige, in which Diego Lopes' striking, grappling, and ground game was great, won every single round, and obviously Diego Lopes ended up taking it by decision. After this, Diego Lopes went on to fight Brian Ortega, in which Diego Lopes dropped and put a lot of punishment on Brian Ortega in round 1. Diego Lopes landed some great shots and kicks in round 2. Diego Lopes then dropped Brian Ortega once again in round 3, and obviously Diego Lopes ended up taking it by decision. And based off their latest performances, I got Diego Lopes winning this fight.
Now, this fight with Alexander Volkanovski and Diego Lopes actually makes a lot of sense because Diego Lopes said that his plan is to be the backup for Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway, but if that doesn't happen, then he wants Alexander Volkanovski for December, which honestly, I'd rather prefer for Diego Lopes to not step in for Ilia Topuria or Max Holloway, but instead I want him to wait and see if Alexander Volkanovski will give him the fight for December, because I don't think he's ready for either Ilia Topuria or Max Holloway. So since both him and Alexander Volkanovski need to prove something, I think this fight makes a lot of sense, because although Diego Lopes did beat Brian Ortega isn't much of a worthy opponent to now say that Diego Lopes deserves a title shot. So instead, he should fight a former champion like Alexander Volkanovski to see how he holds up. And the reason this fight makes a lot of sense for Alexander Volkanovski is because, like I said, he needs to prove something since he's coming off 2 knockout losses. So he needs to prove to everyone that his age doesn't matter and that he can still get back on a title run. And since Diego Lopes is a very high fighter, and since he's on a 5-5 winning streak, he's definitely a very good matchup for Alexander Volkanovski's comeback fight. So now, how's this fight going to go and who's going to win this fight? Well, I'm automatically going to say that Alexander Volkanovski beats Diego Lopes on the feet. Yes, as of right now, Volkanovski doesn't seem to have the best chin, and he doesn't seem to be at his best, but he is still one of the best, if not the best, featherweights of all time, and I believe that he's the best striker in the featherweight division right now. So if the fight stays on the feet, I don't think Diego Lopes will be able to pull off an Ilia Topuria performance, which involves him pressuring Alexander Volkanovski and touching him up and ultimately knocking him out, because Volkanovski in that fight against Ilia Topuria, he showed that he still has it in him to hang with the top contenders. So the only way I see Diego Lopes winning this fight is if he submits Alexander Volkanovski, which is still very possible because we've seen that Brian Ortega almost did exactly that, but I still got Alexander Volkanovski winning this fight.